Welcome back to DIY Willy. Today we're going to work on the 2008 Nissan Frontier. Our passenger side regulator has gotten to where it doesn't want to roll the window up anymore. It's really slow. We could try and lubricate it or try to adjust it, but we recently, well, not too recently, I guess it was a year or so ago, we replaced the driver's side regulator and that window works really nice. So we went ahead and just bought another window regulator, and we're going to change the passenger side regulator. So follow along as we attempt to do this. So inside, when you're looking at the door panel, we got a couple pieces we're going to remove with the trim. This piece and the plastic piece behind it, the door grab right here, and then there's screws behind here, behind each one of these spots. And then we can take the clips off around the perimeter, pop them off, and lift the door panel, disconnect the wiring. That will get us to the moisture barrier where we need to take and remove to get to the window regulator on the inside. Okay, we're going to take our trim removal tools and get in there and pop this trim off. Just like that, being careful not to break the tabs. Like that. There's another one right here. There we go. It's also got little tabs on it. Took a minute to get that off, but that will reveal the screw. I think it's a 10mm right there. And then we got to get this piece off, the handle grab. Just kind of work it up like that, like so. Being gentle right here on the inside to not break any of these little tabs. And like I said, that'll get us to the bolts on the inside. And I believe those are 10mm. Let me get the wrench. Okay, now that I've got the 3 screws out, you can just take your trim removal tool, kind of get it behind here and pop the clips around, give them a little pull gently like that, and then we can lift the door panel off and disconnect the wires. Let me get that done. Once you have the door panel off, the harness unplugged, you're going to need to take off this little support plate, and it just has 3 10mm bolts. You may not have to take this off, but I recommend taking it off just to make it easier to get to everything. Gives you a nice clear view. Then the moisture barrier is held on by this type of glue. I'm not sure of the name of it, but it will reuse when it heats up again. And that'll get us in here to our regulator bolts. We've got 3 bolts for the motor, 2 bolts on the top for the window regulator, and 2 bolts on the bottom for the window regulator. And yeah, we got a plug right here. It's a 2-wire plug. I'll get that in a minute. And yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and get these bolts out, and we'll work on getting the regulator out. Okay, so the next part of replacing the window regulator is getting the window down enough to expose those screws right there. You can see one right there and one right there. And these will unscrew the glass from the regulator. And then you'll want to take some tape and pull the glass back up and tape it to the door frame on the top. I'll show you how I do that once I get these bolts out. Okay, so I took the two bolts out. They're 10 millimeters. Everything's 10 millimeter pretty much. And I had a couple pieces of tape here on the side ready to go. I slid the window up into the closed position and I taped it over the frame. See that? Over the frame, so both sides of the glass are taped up. This will hold the window in place while we remove the regulator. Now, when disconnecting the harness, I find it's really easy just to take a screwdriver and press down on this. You'll hear it click, and then just pull the harness off like that. This truck seems to be a 2-wire harness, as you can see. So we have the right regulator. That's good news. And now we got the 3 bolts and the 2 for the regulator. And yeah, we'll get those off right now. Okay, so I've got these 3 bolts out for the motor. I've got the 2 bolts out on the bottom, and I have 1 bolt out on the top of the regulator. I left 1 bolt in. That's kind of like an anchor point. Now the motor, it's kind of hard to see, but the motor has 2 little clips that hold it in place as well. Let's see if I can get a closer look at that. The motor has 2 little clips that hold it in place as well, so that it won't flop around inside while you got the hardware out and you're trying to change the regulator. This one, we took 1 bolt out and 2 bolts on the bottom. We left this one loose because it'll slide out and go through that hole. That gives you an anchor point, something to hold the regulator while you're working on it. Let me show you how to get it out. We're going to take it out through this opening right here. All we're going to do, lift up on the motor, take it off its little clips, push in on the regulator, bring it over, pull it out. There we go. 1 regulator out. It's got some pretty sticky grease in it. I want to keep a hand towel nearby. Kind of get some of that stickiness off. Makes it easier to work. Now that we've got it out, let's take a look at the new part and compare it with the old part. Make sure we got just the right part we need. So here's the box. The box was kind of munched up, man. It wasn't in the best of shape. It almost looks like Groot went to get it, but I know for a fact that he didn't. So the new regulator in plastic. Oh, we got some instructions here. That side's in Spanish. There we go. There we go. This side's in English. Guess I got some wind. Yeah, there you go. There's instructions on how to do it. We got more instructions in Spanish than we do in English. That's interesting. Oh well, we don't need it where we're going anyway. I think I got it figured out. Taking a look at the new one. Looks exactly the same, only this has got a pigtail on the motor instead of a fitting like this one. But that doesn't matter, it'll still plug in. Everything else looks to be the same. There's our 1 bolt we're going to transfer over. Looks pretty good. Everything looks to be exactly the same except new instead of old. Yeah, let me transfer that 1 bolt. We'll just take it off and put it in the new one. There we go. Now I'm going to get some silicone spray and I'm going to spray this one up a lot before I install it, just to make sure it's got lubrication everywhere, like in the motor drive right there. Make sure it's all lubricated, and on the track. Ooh, the wind's blowing. And on the track that the guides slide on. And on this side, well, I'll show you on the old one. On this side, you can see where it's greased and the cable runs through. So I'm gonna put more grease and silicone spray inside here, make everything slide really nice. Again, in here, you know, these motors just get wore out. That's why they get slow. Okay, let me get this done and we'll get it back inside, start putting the car back together. So after applying quite a bit of grease and spray to the regulator so that it's very well lubricated, I set it back in place through the same hole, going in this way. I had my 1 bolt up there to catch it, and I got my 2 tabs here to catch the motor. Let's see, the wiring harness for the motor is right here. So we'll connect that again in the same spot. We need to bring it down. Once we get it bolted in, we need to bring it down so that the bolts, I think, are in the right spot once we get all the hardware back in. So I'm going to do that right now. I'll save you the pain of watching it. I'll get it done. I'll show you when I do the next step. I'm all ready. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten these up. Again, these are all 10 millimeter. I don't know of any torque specification, but there's probably something. I just go until they're tight. They're not going to loosen up. All right. Now we need to bring the regulator down to where the mounting bolts for the glass are here. They're a little bit high right now, but I'll go ahead and plug it in, turn the key on, and I'll be able to lower it down where I want it. One more thing I wanted to bring up is it's a good idea to take some silicone spray and go into the tracks. Spray the heck out of the tracks on the inside. All the way from the top, all the way down. This stuff will run inside, and you want to get a good coating inside the track. They dry out, and in fact, you can see it dripping out the bottom on the door, and we got enough in there. Good idea to keep it all lubricated. I already lubricated the inside of the window regulator, so now I can plug it in. I can plug it in like that, and we'll go ahead and bring it down. So I got it plugged in, and I turned the key on, and I brought the regulator down where you can see the bolt hole locations for the glass in these openings here. So now I can, well, first of all, I'm going to clean all the grease off my hands, and I can untape the glass, and I can gently lower the glass down and put the hardware back in it. And then we'll be done. We can try the glass, have it go up and down, and start putting it back together. Grab a hold of the glass on the bottom, take the tape off. It's stuck on my hand. Go ahead and lower the glass down until it meets those mounting holes. Take your bolts and screw the glass back to the regulator, just like that. Again, I don't know the torque specs on it. I usually just get them tight. Like that. Looks good. Kind of go over each one again. Yeah, I like it. I've got the bolts back in. The glass is now attached to the regulator. These bolts are in, they're tight. The 4 bolts for the regulator are in on the top and the bottom. We're ready for test. I turn the key on. Let's go down and let's go up. Very nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray in the track on top. I could also take a rag and kind of clean. This is the silicone spray. Good idea just to get a good amount in there so that the regulator will move up and down freely. I'm going to take a rag and kind of go inside and remove any dirt that may be in there with the spray. That, run it up and down a couple times. Not so gritty sounding. Very nice. Very, very nice. I like it. You may have to clean the glass again after you do this. It's getting the spray residue off. But the more you run it up and down, the more it's going to lubricate. You can see the spray running out the bottom of the doors. I got a lot of silicone spray in there. I'm going to go ahead and just lubricate some of the other parts. Inside the door, the lock cylinder, all in here. Maybe the slide for the hinges. You know, might as well do a little maintenance while we're at it. Get everything really lubricated. There we go. There we go. Now it's time to put it back together. Looks good. It goes back together just in the reverse order. I'm not going to waste your time on that. We'll put it back together and we'll take a look at it when it's done. All right, so there you go. It's all back together. It's looking good. Let's go ahead and try it one more time. Got the key on. Goes down nice. Comes back up good. Yeah, nice. Very nice. Very nice. Trim's all back on perfectly. And nothing got broken. So we use just a few tools here. We have a trim removal tool. I have a small flat screwdriver for those hard wire releases for those connections, and just my 10mm ratchet and some tape to hold the glass. So yeah, that was a good job. Turned out perfectly. Got the old regulator there. And sometimes I'll take the motors and keep those motors up, the old regulators, in case we do have a problem with the motor. In this one, I can always change the motor out, because there's more than just a motor that goes wrong on these things. It's also all the plastic guide pieces that guide the cable around. As it goes around, they wear out over time and puts a lot of stress on the motor. So sometimes those motors are okay, and maybe you can just buy the regulator next time, you know, instead of the motor, and save a little money. Who knows? But yeah, it's a good job. And thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in and checking out my videos. Always come back to DIY Willy for your Nissan Frontier needs, and of course the mini bikes and the Samurai and all that. But this was a good install. We needed to change that regulator. It wasn't that expensive. It was a lot cheaper than getting the one from the dealership, and yeah, it worked out good. So I'll see you next time. Bye.